Episode 2. The Late Signer. The Flip. From Royal Commission to Provincial Leader. What's up, you magnificent bastards? Welcome back to the Masonic Files, where we skip the polished statues and the feel-good fluff and get straight into the brothers who actually live the craft. Brotherly love, relief, and truth. Even when they started on the wrong side of the fight and had to square up later. This is episode 2 of our 4-part deep dive into Brother Matthew Thornton, the Irish immigrant doctor and last signer of the Declaration. In episode 1, we followed the Scotch-Irish toddler who crossed the ocean at age 3, survived a deadly Indian raid escaping by canoe, grew up clearing rocky New Hampshire fields in Londonderry, trained as a physician and earned battlefield steel at Louisbourg in 1745. We watched him keep hundreds of men alive amid dysentery, freezing mud, and French fire while taking his Masonic degrees in a British Army lodge. Now the imperial pressures mount. British policies keep squeezing the colonies with taxes, trade restrictions, and troops. Thornton, who once served the crown faithfully and held a royal commission as colonel of militia, starts measuring those grievances with the same honest eye he once used on the battlefield. Let's walk this flip carefully, because this is where the working tools really begin to show their worth. The years after Louisbourg were busy but relatively stable for Matthew Thornton. He built a solid medical practice serving the rugged communities around Londonderry and the Merrimack Valley. In 1748, he married Hannah Jack, a strong-willed woman from a local family. Together, they raised 5 children and created a home that balanced frontier practicality with the modest comforts a successful doctor could provide. Thornton was respected. He killed very few patients compared to other doctors of the period. Patients trusted his steady hands and calm demeanor during outbreaks of smallpox, dysentery, and the injuries that came with frontier life. He took on civic roles, served in the New Hampshire Assembly, and gradually became a man of affairs in the province. For years he lived as a loyal subject of the British Crown, the same crown whose uniform he had worn and whose military lodge had initiated him into Masonry during the siege of Louisbourg. But the world around him was shifting. Funny how enthusiastic service to government in youth gives way to suspicions, reevaluation, and sometimes disdain. The shift is sometimes nearly imperceptible to the man living it, and it is left to future examiners, who benefit from the distance of time and location to figure out whether the man changed, or it was the situation around him. The Stamp Act of 1765 hit the colonies like a thunderclap. Legal documents, newspapers, ship clearances, everything carried a tax. Ah, how little has changed. Thornton watched as protests erupted from Boston to Charleston. As a practical man who understood both medicine and governance, he began to see dangerous patterns. Parliament's distant hand felt increasingly arbitrary and unresponsive. The same complaints the backcountry farmers had raised years earlier were now being felt by merchants, lawyers, and coastal elites. Governor John Wentworth, the royal governor of New Hampshire, tried to maintain order. He was ambitious, cultured, and loyal to the crown. Thornton had worked with him in the assembly and respected his intelligence. But the governor's defense of British policies began to grate. The two men had polite but increasingly tense exchanges in the assembly chamber. Wentworth saw Thornton as a steady, reasonable voice who could help keep the province calm. Thornton, however, was starting to question whether calm was still possible, or even desirable. The Townshend Acts of 1767 made things worse. New duties on glass, lead, paper, and tea struck directly at trade. Thornton's patients and neighbors felt the pinch. Merchants grumbled. Farmers who supplied the ports felt the ripple effects. Thornton's own medical supplies became more expensive and harder to obtain. The doctor who had once fought for the British now found himself measuring the Empire's actions with the same critical eye he used on a feverish patient. The shift was gradual, not dramatic. Thornton did not suddenly become a fire-breathing radical. He remained the same practical, level-headed man who had kept soldiers alive at Louisbourg. But the square in his mind began to recalibrate. The grievances he had once helped suppress in the regulator movement now looked eerily similar to what Parliament was doing to the colonies as a whole. Distant authority, excessive fees, unresponsive power. The patterns were the same. By 1774, the break was becoming inevitable. News of the Boston Tea Party and the intolerable acts reached New Hampshire. Thornton spoke more forcefully in the Assembly against royal policies. He helped form local committees of correspondence and safety. When open conflict erupted at Lexington and Concord in April 1775, Thornton made his choice final. He was elected president of New Hampshire's first provincial Congress. In that role, he helped organize resistance, draft early constitutional ideas, and coordinate the colony's response to the growing crisis. The man who had once held a royal commission as colonel of militia now stood openly against that authority. The flip was complete. This transition was not without cost or controversy. Old colleagues and loyalist neighbors, whom have been shown in the previous series episodes to be feckless twats, viewed his change with suspicion or outright hostility. Some whispered that the flip was opportunistic, a man protecting his status as the wind shifted. Thornton let his actions answer them. He worked tirelessly to build the new government structures while the royal Governor John Wentworth fled to a British warship for safety. His wife Hannah played a crucial but quiet role. She managed the household and children during his increasing absences, kept the family steady through uncertainty, and provided the practical support that allowed Thornton to focus on public duty. The children watched their father transform from a respected local doctor into a leader of the patriot cause. The household felt the strain of divided loyalties and the fear that came with open rebellion. Masonry quietly equipped him during this period. The brotherhood he had known in the British Army Lodge at Louisbourg had taught him that men could share obligations even across differences. That experience helped him navigate the tense months of shifting allegiances. The square helped him measure justice on a larger scale. The compasses kept old habits and comforts in check. The level reminded him that men from different backgrounds could still work together under shared principles. The trowel showed in how he spread unity and practical organization during chaotic times. The flip carried real personal costs. Old relationships strained. Former friends and colleagues who remained loyalist viewed him with distrust. The man who had once worn the king's uniform now found himself on the opposite side of the divide. Yet he moved forward with the same quiet determination that had defined his life since the Irish immigrant ship and the frozen fields of Louisbourg. By late 1775, Thornton had become one of New Hampshire's leading patriot voices. His practical leadership, medical background, and steady temperament made him valuable in a time when both organization and care for the wounded were desperately needed. The rough ashlar from the immigrant ship had been chiseled by frontier life, battlefield experience, Masonic obligation, and now the hard choices of revolution. Now it was being squared for a much larger fight. This has been Episode 2 of the Masonic Files on Brother Matthew Thornton, the Late Signer series. The Flip, from Royal Commission to Provincial Leader. Episode 3 will cover his election to the Continental Congress, the dramatic late arrival in Philadelphia on November 4, 1776, his insistence on signing the engrossed declaration despite the delay, his short service there, and the return home to continue state-level work amid ongoing war pressures. Hit subscribe. Share this with your lodge brothers, your history buffs, or anyone navigating a principled shift when old ties pull hard in the opposite direction. I'll catch you in episode 3. Stay square. Stay savage. Stay Masonic.